Hello and welcome to another episode of Webinar Wednesday. Today we're going to be giving you some updates on Amazon FBA, some new developments that have happened in Amazon FBA, and also on the India sourcing situation. And Margaret, Kevin is not joining us today, so it's just you and me.
No, we've got to do it on our own today, hey? The ladies.
Yes, the ladies. Absolutely. And we've got a lot of topics to cover, Margaret, right? I mean, there's just so much happening in this
Well,
space.
there
It's
is. Yeah.
yeah, it's
And we were just saying it's not all really good news either. A lot of it's not really nice stuff, but we've got to tell everyone about it because it's happening.
exactly. And yeah, I mean, not a lot of good news, but I think the good news is that e-commerce sales are still increasing significantly, and there's still huge
Yeah,
opportunity on Amazon and
definitely.
e-commerce in general. So yeah, overall, the space and the overall opportunity is definitely increasing. So I think that's the good news. But
That's right. Yeah,
it's becoming a more challenging for everybody.
it is. There's
Um,
something every
oh,
day.
exactly. Yeah, it's difficult to keep up. So, yeah, and also everyone watching, feel free to ask any questions that you might have about Amazon FBA or sourcing or anything at all. We'll also be taking all of your questions. So, Margaret, do you want to get started? What do you want to talk about
Okay.
first?
Well, I think we might talk about Prime Day first, seeing,
Okay.
well, we hope it's happening soon. Look, there's a lot of conjecture about when it's going to be, and most, from what I've been reading, it's mid to late June. And our Father's Day in America, for those of you who don't know, is the 20th of June. And the story is that it's more than likely going to be the week after that, so the 22nd to the 24th of June. So, which means if you are wanting to get stock in for Prime Day, I think it has to be in by about the end of May. So it's going to get busy, even if you're not like focusing on selling for Prime Day. If you're running low on stock, I'd suggest you start moving it in because there'll be a bit of backlog of stock going in because the big sellers will be trying to get in, all their products. So, and already all the Prime deals have all closed. They all closed. If you didn't get an invite and do that, they've been closed, I think, since the middle of April or something. So, but you can put coupons on and things, just and discounts on the day to attract people if you are not involved in the Prime sort of actual deals. Now, for those of you who are new to this, the Prime deals aren't free. It can cost you $500, $600, $700 to enter into a deal. So you've got to be pretty confident that you've got a product that's going to really sell, and you've got to have plenty of stock to make your money back to start with. So probably if you've got one product and 200 or 300 of them, you'd never do a Prime deal anyway. But you can do a discount code or something like that. There'll be a bit more information once it's announced come out as to what they're actually offering to do. So, and I think, look, the sales might be a bit quiet the week before as well, but it'll be good because if it's Father's Day, hopefully it'll be busy because of Father's Day, and then Prime Day will kick in because normally the week before everyone's looking and not buying. So watch your PPC the week before. So everyone will be clicking away madly looking. So that's
Right.
the next thing I just want to touch on is the
And
restock
also,
inventory. Okay, go on.
also for
Sorry,
Prime Day, what about PPC? Sorry, there's my light over here is a bit, it's flickering
you
a
got
bit.
to you got to flash
Yeah,
over.
I've got a flash here. So, yeah, I mean, what about PPC? Should people increase their budgets or increase their bids or keep their bids the
Look,
same and increase
it depends
budgets?
on every person, I think, how much stock you've got and what your strategy is going to be. I mean, if you've got a lot of stock you want to move, you would need to increase, your budget. But beware, the budget goes very quickly. Because you get so many people just looking. So don't give an open-ended budget and think I'll only spend half because you probably wake up and find it's all gone if you're over on our side of the world. So yeah, you've just got to look at a strategy that what you want to do, and it depends on the size of your whole Amazon business, I think, which way you go. But for a lot of the new starters, I'd be careful. I wouldn't go increasing it willy-nilly, because you might find that you spend a lot more than you actually get, because there is you do get more sales on Prime days, even if you just there, because there's just generally more traffic and people looking. But a lot of people are going for bargains. So unless you've got a huge discount on your product, you know, they're what people are really looking for. And a lot of Amazon products, Amazon have all the, you know, Echo Dot and all their stuff are really cheap. So I think the people going in for that. And obviously if you're selling food and groceries and things like that, that's a great opportunity because people will stock up, so you can, you know, move a lot of those sort of products really easily. But if you're doing home decor or something, I mean, people are still got to want it. It's not, you know, that people sort of buy that as quickly as like produce and things like that.
Okay, cool. So, all you guys watching, what plans do you have for Prime Day? And are you running any deals? Tell us in the comments what exactly you're doing for Prime Day. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, Mark. What do you want to talk about next?
Okay, we'll talk about the restock and inventory levels, the new little...
Okay. You keep talking. I'm just going to fix this light real quick.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm going to stop my camera.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Now, look, with these restock and inventory levels, hopefully everyone's a little bit over what's happened now, and the ASIN level of 200 is now no longer in play. So if you're a new seller, you more than likely, from what I see with most people, have a restock limit of 1,000 and unlimited storage. Now that's fantastic because that's what a lot of people have been selling for years have got. But beware, I'm a little bit concerned that they're giving you that now, and maybe we don't know in whether they do wait 3 months or they'll wait and look at your IPI score, and they could change that very quickly back and you could end up overstocked. So I wouldn't go using that 1,000 inventory level if you're putting in a brand new product unless you're pretty confident it's going to walk off the floor. Because what can happen is, and I've got a couple of people that I work with who have not really fast moving products and only one, and they've got a restock inventory level of 1,000, but their IPI score is under 450. So they're only allowed 92 items depending on the size of their product, because what's happened is their actual inventory level, which is how many cubic feet you can have in there, is gone from unlimited down to, I think it was something like 32 cubic feet or something. So you've just got to be careful because that could happen down the track, because this is an unknown thing. We're not too sure how the new products are going to get treated. But for those of us who have got, you know, quite multiple SKUs, it's going to mean a lot more shipping plans, because basically, well, Amazon dropped it back, then they dropped it back again dramatically, and now mine's gone up again a bit. So you don't know where they finished, and that's what you can stock. But whereas before they were saying to me, put in another 500 of these today, now they're saying put in 50 or 90. So I think they're trying to discourage you having too much stock in the warehouse. So it's really going to be you'll be so good at shipping plans by the end of you know, the next couple of months, because you're going to be doing a lot more to keep your stock at a level that you want. And I think launching new products for myself, I've got a new product that I was planning to launch, and I've actually even just left it in India at the moment because it wasn't quite finished. I thought I'm not going to wait for it, because now I've got to actually cut back all my other product stock to get the new product in. So that means, you know, a bit of sort of playing around. So I'm just hoping that maybe in time things will stabilise. This might be just a test thing. We have no real information on where it's going from here, and so I think people just need to look at it. But I check mine every morning to see what's happening, and if you don't know where to check it, you go into inventory, manage FBA shipments, and right down the bottom of the screen there are two little green boxes, and click on them both and see what they are saying, because you don't find out any other way. They don't send you an email to tell you they've changed it. It just gets changed. So you've really got to look at that yourself on a daily basis. So that's restock. And you've got any questions about what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think, let me see. Claire is saying, Is there a deadline to have your Prime Day deals in and approved? I can't find anything in the seller dashboard.
The deals have already closed. From what I believe, it was like the 20-something of April for the deals where you pay, a few $100s to get in. So I think they're well and truly gone. So I think they actually sent out emails to people who they wanted or thought would do those deals. So I mean, but you can still do different coupon codes and things. So that's there's not much on Seller Central about the Prime Day at all. It's all very secretive at the moment. So can't help you much more than that with that one.
Okay, I don't see any more relevant questions.
Nothing else relevant questions. Okay, just while we're on the restock and inventory levels, I'll just talk a little bit about storage. For those of you who aren't aware about what's happening with storage, as of the 1st of June, all FBA and FBM fees are going up. Now, Amazon is saying things like 3% across the board. I've actually printed out, and I'll just grab it here so I can sort of talk to you, the sheet, and it is on Amazon. If you Google Amazon storage fee increase or something, it'll bring up the chart. And look, some things are going up from like $5.42 to $5.68, so that's only 26 cents. But then I've come across in large standard, anything that weighs between 10 to 16 ounces is going up 77 cents. So there's no rhyme or reason. And then, something that weighs a pound is only going up 26 cents. So you're going to have to really wait and look at every product on, as it happens along the way, because there's no way knowing each product what it's going. You can sort of have a bit of a guess, but they've sort of changed things like from, 10 to 16 ounces. Even the little categories have all sort of swapped around a bit in weight. But that seems to be the biggest increase, is about 77 cents on just a large standard. Oversize actually has got cheaper by the look of it. So some of it, and then some of it's dearer. But I think we're all going to get hit with it, and it's going to be at least 3%, maybe, a little bit more, a little bit less. Removal fees, they're going up slightly, but it's all now done on weight. So they're changing how they're doing it, but it's going up probably about 15 cents a product by the look of it. And then anything over £2 is going up about 35 cents. So it's just really sort of, each product, until you get the new charts, you won't know what's happening. Also, referral fees. Now, they're not going up across the board for us, but it's only on selected things, and it's full-size appliances, personal computers, veterinary diet, pet food, and renewable products. They seem to be the only ones that the actual referral fees are going up on. So at least it's just the FBA fees. Now, I don't know, like, you've all got to look at this and see how much it's affecting you overall, because, you're going to absorb it, you're going to sneak your price up 50 cents or $1 to cover it. And I think with the few increases that are happening with Amazon at the moment, it may, mean that you need to look at it, because once again, we were just talking about the sort of restock limits, and if you're going to be putting in more stock out of the warehouses all the time, you've got all that extra trucking cost. So, I think it's time to sit down and reappraise each product once you get your fees, and just see how much you're actually going to be out of pocket, and do you want to absorb that, or do you want to pass it on? Because we can't keep absorbing it, or we'll end up, it just reduces our profit margin. So I think that all in all, it's, not too bad, I suppose. But it's the way it is, and we can't do much about it. Now, FBA storage fees, I don't know whether most of you realise or know that at the moment, from January to September, end of September, we pay 75 cents a cubic feet, whatever it is. And from Q4, it's $2.40 a cubic foot. So that is quite, in a way, counteracts some of having your stock all sitting in Amazon and having it in a 3PL, because 3PL doesn't increase their fees, or they haven't up until now. So hopefully they don't change their mind this year and take advantage of us. But normally it's the same fee all year round. And just sort of working it out, at the moment you're paying 75 cents a cubic foot, works out to about roughly $24 a pallet, and that's about what you get charged in a 3PL roughly. But of course, in Q4, that $23 becomes $75 roughly a pallet. So you're saving a lot if you just drip feeding Amazon instead of putting, thousands of products in for Q4. So I think you've just sort of got to, have a look at that too and think, oh, well, I'm a little bit better off at the end of the year. With what, and that's the time when you want all your stock in there. So I think that's something we need to just look at and make a decision on. Have you got anything else there? No.
Someone is asking about a link where they can check storage fees. So I posted a link in the group, but you can just Google Amazon FBA storage fees, and the information is available on Seller Central. So you don't even need to sign in for that.
No, you can just Google is your friend. Anything you really want to look at for Amazon, if you go in, you'll find an answer to most of these. There's usually a page in there with all the information, or you can go into Seller Central itself, sellercentral.com/learn, and in there is virtually a story and some more links to take you into everything you want to know. So it can be, the storage fees, basically anything to do with Amazon, refunds, all those things. There's all information in there, and it's really it's fairly brief, but most of it's got the basic information. Then you follow the links down, you can sort of zoom down further in the information.
Yeah, so they've got a lot of videos as well. So if you want to, if you're just starting out, if you want to know how to do shipping plans or how to do listings and where to find what, I find that their videos, it does have the basic information.
Yeah.
So
it'll help you. I think you get through, by watching that, you can find out a lot. So, don't sort of think that because I find Seller University to try and go in and find it sometimes is a little bit hard. It's easier to Google it and then and then get in and follow the links from there. I just think it seems to, I find it easier than trying to find my way around their Seller University. Now,
let me just quickly display the link. Okay. So it's sellercentral.amazon.com/learn.
No. Yeah. sellercentral.com/learn. No, not .amazon, I don't think. Just sellercentral.com.
Okay, I just searched
Google and it. Oh, is that what you got? Okay.
Yeah, maybe both work, but yeah.
Yeah, they might both work.
Both work, yeah.
So, and also, now, as well as FBA increases, multi-fulfillment channel increases are also happening, and that will be much the same sort of fee as the FBA fees, so it won't change a lot. It'll be about 3% or something. Now, let's move on to returns and refunds. So now with refunds, normally somebody over this time of the year, you get 30 days. A buyer can get up to 30 days to apply for a refund. So then after that, they get they used to get 45 days to send that product back into Amazon. And at the end of that 45 days, if they hadn't returned the product, you actually got reimbursed for that. In the last about 2 weeks, I know they haven't changed the update on the actual Seller Central information. But now when you go in to apply, I went in to apply because there was a couple they owed me money on, and it said, oh no, you've got to wait 60 days now. It's changed to 60, you're not eligible yet. So sneakily that's changed. So now people have got basically your product for 90 days to entertain with, party with, and then send it back. So, that's a change. But at Christmas time, it means you're going to be waiting for about, 5 or 6 months because they usually give them from, I think it's the 1st of October, and they don't have to return the product, or they don't even have to apply for a refund until the end of January, I think it is, and then they'll have another 2 months after that. So it's quite a long time that they can, have our products and nothing happen. Now, I've also found that with the returns, normally you get you get to see what's happening, and I find that a lot of our products would come back returned as carrier damaged. So when they were checked into Amazon, they'd obviously had packing labels stuck all over them from the courier service and things. So we were getting reimbursed for those. So I was probably getting back half of my refunds because they were carrier damaged. All of a sudden now, I get about 5 or 10% customer, the rest are customer damage. So they're obviously decided that that this customer stuck the stickers on, not the carrier service. And I think it's probably the carriers were getting hit for all this money, so they've probably complained. But it has tightened up a lot. So you'll find that it is costing you more out of pocket, and they're also putting a lot more of my products back in as sellable, which I hate. Nothing you can do about it. If the bloke at the warehouse deems that it's sellable, it's sellable. And sometimes I'll look at a comment and say, there was an item missing out of your box, and then they'll put it back into sellable. But there is nothing I can do about it. So what's going to happen next month? It's going to come back again because the item will still be missing. So they're not checking them very well. I know everyone hates this, but it's Amazon's policy, and you can't really go back and say, I don't want that back into stock. They do it. And the other thing I didn't say was, when it's carrier damage, what they do is they actually take those, they own them. If they reimburse you for a product, they take that product and then they sell it on your listing as another seller through Amazon warehouse. So you obviously, then you'll start losing the buy box. People say I kept losing the buy box, and you'll find a lot of times when you lose your buy box, that is why, because they're actually sort of reselling it against you. So they might say, you might be selling it for $50 and they'll come in and sell it for $42 with a damaged package or something like that. It usually says why they've, it's been sold cheap. It might say it's scratched, or it's the carton's damaged, or something like that. So, but that then becomes Amazon's property to do as they wish with. So once again, you can't stop that. You can't say, I don't want you to do that. It's just the way that they work. And we're playing in their playground, so we have to play their game. So that's about the way it is.
And that's sold as used, right? Those products are sold as used.
Sold as yeah, they're sold as used. And funnily enough, we've caught a couple of people out who come back to us, never go to Amazon Refund, but they'll come back and say, oh, I've got a product that I have got and it's come damaged. Can I have another one? And I always go back and say, can I have your order ID, please? And I've caught 2 people out. When they come back to me with the order ID, it was bought through Amazon Warehouse. And I'll say to them, did you by any chance buy that through Amazon Warehouse as used? Because I don't have record that you've ever purchased it. Or I don't know, I wouldn't remember. So I just go straight away, you'll just need to speak to Amazon customer service about that. And of course, you never hear another thing because they can't go back and get. But they're hoping that I'm then going to send them a free replacement to replace the one they bought for half price. So you've got to be one step of the game here.
Okay, so how do you find their listing for the carrier damaged ones?
It's all, you just in FBA returns. So if you just go into your orders, then return orders, down the drop down tab and click on FBA. On the right hand side it will have, it's either carrier damaged, no, it can be defective, it's about 10 codes, unwanted item, all the different reasons. And at the top of that, anything that's blue in Amazon, anything that's got blue across the top of it, you can click on and put it in order. So if you go and click on the column that's got the reasons, you can actually group them all together and have all, the same reason, so you can quickly see when they
She's
list
asking when they list them.
When they list them.
So that should be on your listing, right? Because
it'll be on your, so just under the headline, like you've got your bullet points, and just under that it'll say how many sellers. So it might say 2 sellers or 3 sellers. So if it's got 2 or 3 sellers, it's either Amazon Warehouse or you've got a bigger problem, you've got a hijacker. So always keep your eye on that as just a daily thing. When you look at your listing, make sure you've got no other sellers on there unless it's Amazon Warehouse, because then you need to do something about that as well. So okay, so that's good. Yep. Okay, now lost shipping. That's another little bone that I follow through with Amazon all the time. What can happen is, quite often if you go through your shipment, last 3 months or so, you might see that maybe there was 2 missing, out of your shipment that they haven't counted in. Or it might be 10, it might be a carton, but I quite often just get 1 or 2, and usually my products are packed in 6s or 8s or 10s. So we don't send in a carton with less than the full amount, so we know that they've lost it. So you can go into the track shipment, and there's a button called reconcile. Now usually you have to wait about 2 months after the shipment's been in to reconcile it, but you can click on reconcile and it can tell you that you can apply for a reimbursement of that. So that's one thing you can get a reimbursement for. Also, and I don't know how this works, but Amazon sometimes fess up and say, oh, we damaged your product in the warehouse, or we lost your product in the warehouse. And they've actually reimbursed me for that. So, and there's no way knowing you can check that. It's very hard. I mean, you'd never reconcile your stock. But what I like to use, and we've had them on and featured them before, is a company called Petita. Now, they will actually, I do my own, like check things and I'll apply for stuff, but they go back over and they'll find anything else that I've missed. And it's quite good because they charge you, I think it's 25%. So if they sort of get you back $100, they'll keep 25 and you get 75. But I looked at it this way, it's $75 I never had because I didn't know about it, because they'll get back ones lost in the warehouse. So they've got better programming than we've got, and they must be able to see what's happening somehow. I have no idea. It's, you know, obviously they've got some great programs to find all these things, but, you know, we periodically, or virtually nearly every month, I would get money back from Petita, even though I've done some of the work myself. Yeah, Claire, I can see Claire's there saying that she got 48. So, gee whiz, I never noticed it. So that's, yeah, so I think it's worth, the few little checks that people should do is always just, you know, go down your shipments and just check that you have got, you know, everything through and everything. But at least I find, you know, Petita's great for doing those things if I do miss them. And sometimes you have to wait like 2 months, then you go off and you forget about it because it's, you know, something else has happened in the meantime. So I think that that's a really great service, and Megler has got the link up there at the moment. And if you use that link, the first $400 worth of goods or money they find for you, they don't take a fee, so you get the first 400 for free. So that's a real bonus, because usually if you start off with them, they can go back depending on the reasons, but some of them they can go back 18 months or 6 months, so they can find things. When we first started, you know, the first month, we got a lot of money back from things that they'd had from, you know, 6 and 12 months ago, which was really good. So that's that one. Now there's, and I don't even think you've got a little slip for this one, Megla, but I've discovered this one. It's called Refund at First Scan. Now this is if you're doing FBM, or if you're going to start doing FBM, because if you're running out of stock at Christmas time and you decide you're going to run FBM and FBA because you can't get enough stock in, Amazon have now brought this in, and it's mandatory if you're doing FBM that anybody who has a prepaid voucher. So what you do is you set up a system in Amazon when you're doing FBM to get the refunds, and it gives the customer like a paid sticker that you put on your product, and it goes back to your address wherever you want it sent back to. But what Amazon's now done is said that that voucher, once it's scanned the first time by any carrier, they are going to immediately refund that customer. So you don't get to wait and see if they do return it, or wait and see if they, you know, it's damaged or they've sent you back an empty box or whatever. It's done and they've got the refund. So then you've got to lodge a claim with Amazon if it is something like that isn't right. So that's something else where, you know, with FBM before you had a little bit more control, but now Amazon has taken that control and said we're giving them their money as part of our great customer service. So yeah, so that's only I've just noticed that in the last couple of days that that's come in. Now I'm back on my account balance payments. I just personally in my own account noticed this fortnight, normally Amazon keep between 35 to 40% of my account in reserve. This time it's about 62%. Now really my sales have been probably better the last fortnight anyway, so I don't know why they've decided to keep more money, but I'm going to watch it, and I'd love anyone else to check their account balances and see if the ratio that you usually get, because, you know, if you're getting 10,000, you should, well, you know, if they owed me 10, they would keep 4 and give me 6. Now it's the other way around, which, you know, the bigger the seller, the bigger amount that they're keeping. So whether they're using this as a free finance service, I'm not too sure, or whether it's just a one-off that they've mucked up my account. But they normally keep changing it all the way through. If you look at that, you'll notice it goes up and down because they seem to balance it. So Claire's saying I'm the same, yeah. So obviously it's another little Jeff mustn't have enough money left or something. He's running out of cash. He needs some cash flow. So I mean, what a way to get some cash flow. Hey, how many people? If they get $5,000 out of every Amazon seller for a fortnight, nice little thing on the short-term money market. So I wish I could do that and get some money.
Yeah, so Claire is
So
in the same boat.
yeah, no, I haven't. Yeah, I'm sort of interested to hear, and I'll catch up with a few people in the next couple of weeks, because I only picked it up about a week ago that it was going to happen. I could see they were just kept adjusting my balance backwards, which wasn't the way that I'm used to them doing it. So I think at the moment that's about all I've got. You were going to talk about, I think, India and that, Megla, were you? Or
Yeah, so I was going to touch upon a couple of things, and I also did a post in the Facebook group, but I just wanted to expand a little bit about on that, and then also, answer any questions if people have questions about sourcing and the situation in India right now and how it might affect your future orders. So, as most of you probably already know, the situation in India is, very heartbreaking. There's a lot of cases, and some cities are really affected more than others. So, for example, Delhi, there's an extreme shortage of hospital beds and oxygen, and the situation is really bad there. Other cities may not be that bad, but there are lockdowns in quite a few cities. Delhi is under lockdown. There's also discussions about a nationwide lockdown that might happen. We're not sure yet. But what we're also seeing is that a lot of the factories are still operating, even though they might be operating with maybe a lower number of workers. But a lot of the factories are still operating under certain conditions. I think what's happening is that the government is allowing factories to operate so that it doesn't affect, the economy. It doesn't have a lot of impact on the economy. Of course, if the situation becomes worse in a particular city, they will definitely close all of the factories. But as of now, for example, in Moradabad, the factories are operational. However, there are a lot of restrictions in place, and there are a lot of the local markets that are closed. So, for example, if a factory is outsourcing certain processes, or maybe buying materials, for example, from the local market, they might not be able to do that. So there is definitely supply chain disruption across most of the manufacturing hubs. So this will, of course, result in delays, and it will affect your order. So you need to plan accordingly. The other thing that's happening is, and this usually happens whenever there's some sort of supply chain disruption. I've seen it happen in China as well. When there are fewer workers in the factory or suppliers are rushing orders, there's always some impact on quality. So at this time, it's very important for you to really keep a close eye on the quality of your products, and make sure that you're doing, inspections, and you're communicating with your supplier on a regular basis, and making sure that they are meeting all of your requirements, and there are no gaps in the quality, and they're not substituting any materials or finishes. Sometimes suppliers do that. They cut corners when they are not able to get a particular material. For example, they'll substitute it with something else. So just make sure that you're on top of the quality. Work with a third-party inspection company like RSJ, Asia Inspection, VTrust. There are lots of them out there. And just continue to monitor the situation, and also be in contact with your supplier on a regular basis. Also, what might also happen is, even if you work with a third-party inspection company, sometimes the inspection company cannot travel to the factory to do an inspection or a factory audit, because there are restrictions to travel within states. And so that is something that you need to be aware of. And they might be able to do a virtual inspection, but virtual inspection, of course, is not as good as an actual physical inspection. So, but that's still possible. You could still ask them to ask the supplier to send you videos, photos, and still do a virtual inspection. If you cannot travel to your factory, if the third-party inspection company cannot travel to your factory, then you don't have a choice. You have to do a virtual inspection. But just monitor the virtual inspection, more closely than you would an in-person inspection. Also, in terms of logistics, what we are seeing is I mean, some of the shipments and all have gone out, this past week, but of course there may be some impact on logistics. So this is something that you have to keep in mind and monitor. And Mag, you can talk about this a little bit. You had a shipment leave last week, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's down at the port now. So I'm just waiting on the ship to find out, what date the actual ship's sailing. But yeah, mine's down, just waiting on clearance of customs at the moment. But I just will touch on shipping costs have gone up quite a bit. From compared to my shipment about last October, the cost now, it's a little bit hard to explain if you're just new to this, but when you get your shipping invoice, you'll find that there's a component which is actually called shipping, which is probably about half your bill usually. And that component has gone up about 70%. So that means the actual shipping companies are charging about 70% more. And I've sort of just tried to scale that back on the size of, work it out on the size, but it's across the board. I think China is a lot worse. I've heard that containers, a 40-foot container out of China has been up to around the $14,000 mark. Now, there used to be 12 months ago $4,000 or $5,000. So I don't think we have as many problems in India, and plus China has run out of containers. So people are now even being asked to put their shipment into, like, it's got a name, but it's like a cold storage container, which doesn't give you as much room, but of course it costs you as much or more. But at least in India, according to Shamishka, they're not having problems with getting the containers. It's just that the cost of shipping, it's a bit of supply and demand. The cost has gone up about 70%. But the rest of your shipping component now, there's about $600 or $700. If you're doing a sea shipment, you will find you've got probably about $600 or $700 in fees. Now, they're things like customs fees, customs clearance fees, port charges, and all those things. So they're all still exactly the same. They haven't changed at all. But what I also noticed was that the land transfer from the port to my 3PL had gone up as well. And I went back and asked Jamaica about it because I thought that the transport costs in America had gone up, but it's actually the waiting time. Because the ports are so busy at the moment, the trucks that go to pick up the goods have to sit and wait, so they charge a waiting fee by the hour. So I've found that fee has gone up about 70% as well, because obviously they charge an hourly rate to sit and wait, which you can understand. I mean, they could spend their whole day waiting for your shipment and make no money. So, that's an extra thing. So I think you've got to added to me about an extra, I suppose, 70 cents a product this time, which overall wasn't too bad. But once again, as we discussed before, your fees are going up, everything's going up. So you've got to think, am I going, that's another 70 cents I've got to wear? How much more can I bear? If you've got a low margin, you've got nothing left. Once again, this is back to why I like doing products with a bit more dollar in it and a bit more margin, because if all these things creep up and I've only got a $3 margin, I've got nothing left. But if I've got, a $10 or $15 margin, I've got some play that I can sort of, look at in that respect. So, yeah, but I think, and time-wise, I don't think at the moment it might be a couple of extra days each end to get onto the ship, because they might have less staff. Obviously in India, there could be a bit of a hiccup with staffing at the port, and obviously at the other end it is extremely busy, so you're going to just take probably a couple more days for customs clearance. So, but at least we can still ship, which is fantastic.
Yeah. The other thing that we've noticed is happening is higher raw material prices, and because of this, suppliers have been increasing their prices. And of course, if you have a good relationship with your supplier, you're sort of a long-term customer, they're probably not increasing prices that much. But if you're a relatively new buyer to a supplier, you might find that they are quoting higher prices. And this is happening globally. It's not only in India. So whether you're sourcing from China, Vietnam, India, anywhere, prices of raw material like timber, wood, steel, copper, all raw material prices are going up. And there are a variety of reasons for it. I don't want to go into it, but you can just Google raw material price increases globally, and you can read why it's happening. But it's there's increased demand from global markets. There's a shortage of containers, as Margaret said, and that's resulting in higher logistics costs, even for these raw material suppliers. And yeah, overall, there are a lot of factors that are playing into this. So overall raw material prices are increasing and suppliers will be quoting you higher prices. I think there are a couple of things that you could do if your supplier does quote you a higher price. So first of all, just try to sit down with the supplier and see if there's any way that you can reduce the overall cost of your product. For example, ask them what is the material that's really affecting the price increase. I mean, is it brass? For example, copper prices are increasing significantly, and copper is used in producing brass. So if you're doing a brass product, for example, can you lower the weight of the product? Because brass is usually sold by weight. So can you lower the weight of the product that you're producing? Can you maybe mix it with another material? For example, if you're doing a tray, can you not do brass handles, for example? Can you, use another material for the handles, or any such thing? So sit down with your supplier and discuss ways of maybe reducing the cost of your product, because every dollar counts, and every change that you make in the product might result in a small savings for you. So a lot of times suppliers will be able to give you suggestions if you tell them that, hey, this price is really high for me. My customers are not going to be able to accept this price, and we're going to lose orders. And talk to your supplier as a partner, because when you lose orders, and of course they are losing orders as well, so it's in their benefit to give you a good price so that your sales are better. Also keep in mind that everybody is experiencing the same price increases, so it's not only you, so your competitors are also getting the same price increases. And that means that everyone's in the same boat, whether you're sourcing from China or from India. And ultimately, I think the price increase has to be transferred to the end consumer, and you have to consider increasing your prices a little bit to be able to absorb all of these increasing costs. And it's not only raw material costs that we're talking about. There's freight costs, there's Amazon FBA fees. It looks like all of the costs across the board, everything is increasing. So yeah, I mean, this is a time to make sure that you have good profit margins in your products, and just sit down and see if there are any ways that you can cut your costs. Also try to negotiate with your suppliers. So if they are asking for a certain price increase, try to negotiate, and maybe you can place larger orders. That's one way to negotiate. Maybe you can commit to them for the next few orders, maybe for the next 6 months or so. If you can commit to them and say that, okay, I am going to source 3 orders, and we can sign a contract for that over the next 6 months, and that will probably incentivize them to give you a better price. So yeah, I think there are different ways to try and work with your supplier to manage these costs. What do you think?
And I think just be careful doing the small orders. Like if you're just ordering 200 products, and like one thing, and I know with most of the suppliers, you'll get an FOB price, which means that when you get that price, if just say your product's going from Delhi to the port down at Nava Shiva, you would get a price including the transport down there. But if you're only doing 200 items, most times the supplier can't afford to work that in, because the transport cost is quite high. So normally you get that sort of in your price, and it's sort of negligible. But because if you're doing 1,000 or something, they'll bear that cost in your cost. But if you're only getting 200, they either charge you an extra fee. So they might say, okay, we'll do 200, but you've got to pay $200 to take that to the port, because they just can't afford, obviously, to absorb it on such a small order. So I think that's something that you have got to be careful of when you're doing small orders. To sort of try and, that's why sometimes I keep saying maybe do, 500 or 600, because it's going to work out cheaper. With those shipping costs I talked about, that extra $600 or $700 or $800 extra, I mean, you could send probably say 200 items in on a shipment, and it'll probably cost you $1,000 with all those costs. But you can send, maybe 1,000 in for an extra couple of $100, because the sea shipping component isn't that large. When you look at your overall invoice, the shipping component doesn't work out to be that high. So I think, it's the extra costs are nearly half of your shipping bill, unless you're doing a huge, container size shipments. So I think it's just something to be aware of, that it's going to end up costing you in the end. Or even if you order 400, you're probably not going to be much worse off, and you've got an extra 200 products at the end of the day.
Yeah. And Brenda has this question. I joined a little late and maybe this was already discussed, but I wanted to ask, for 200 units, what would be the best way to ship those units to USA? I talked to Sea Air and they told me a regular courier would be better, but this is my first time and I don't really know how to go about it. Yeah, so definitely if it's 200 units, I mean, it depends on the weight and the size of the product as well, but I'm assuming it's a smallish kind of product. So yeah, I think your best bet would be to send it by courier, especially if it's a light product and it's small.
Yeah.
Then
Is it too big to airship? Because maybe it might be cheaper to use air than freight, because you don't have that $800 port fees. But I'd say Shamiska would have suggested that, so maybe it's a little bit too big for air shipping as well, because it isn't cheaper. It's about 13 ounces, so it's probably a little bit too heavy. It's probably something that needs to be sea shipped, really. It's probably too big for air shipping, because that'd probably work out to $8 or $10 or something.
Yeah, but she's saying courier would be better.
So just to use, that'd be like FedEx or something like that. Yeah, FedEx or DHL, because they don't have all the port charges and the extra costs.
Yeah, so Brenda, if it's a small kind of volume, because for air you also have to keep in mind it's not just the weight, it's the volume that also, the volumetric weight that matters. And so the volumetric weight can quickly kick in if your shipment size is big. So you can just Google volumetric weight and then calculate the volumetric weight of your order. And so what you could do is you can ask your supplier to actually use their courier, their corporate DHL or FedEx account, and ship it directly into Amazon. So usually most suppliers will have a corporate account and they will get much better rates for courier than if you go directly to DHL, just as a private account. So ask your supplier to use their corporate account and ship it to Amazon directly. That should probably work for you. Cool. So any more questions? Let us know what you guys are up to, how you guys are doing, and how you're preparing for Prime Day, or have you placed your orders for Q4? Gosh, there's so many questions.
I hope they've placed their orders for Q4. They're running out of time.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Oh, the other thing I think I wanted to say is that this, even though many suppliers are not working right now, this may be a good time to have conversations about product development with your supplier. So, of course, some suppliers have, family members or friends affected by COVID, and so they might not be available at all. They're busy taking care of their family members. But there are a lot of suppliers whose maybe their factories are closed, or they're working from home, or even if the factories are open, they're not able to do a lot of work in the factory. So they may be available to talk to you, to do Zoom calls and all. So this may be a good opportunity and a good time to get on a call with your supplier and talk about your Q4 orders. And that will also ensure that once things open up, then your order is sort of front of line, because again, what's going to happen is once the factories open up, they're going to have a rush of orders, and they're going to rush to do to process different orders, and then they're going to have to prioritize. And so if you get your orders in ahead of time and get them confirmed and maybe even pay a deposit for your orders, then at least you can ensure that you're at the front of the line when things open up.
Yeah, look, my supplier actually messaged me yesterday, the day before, and said to me, now, we've been talking about me doing another order for Q4, and he said, can I have that order? Because the problem is over in India at the moment, some of the raw materials are getting harder to get because of the shutdowns in certain areas. So I've actually given him my order so he can actually get the raw materials in and ready to start work on it when they can. So I think, you've got to sort of think that there's a few problems with it over there. So don't leave your Q4 order until, July or August, because it's just going to be impossible. You're not going to make the grade because they're going to be probably busy. They're trying to make catch up, and they're not going to be able to get all the materials they need. So anything you're thinking of you want before, to have into Amazon ready to sell before, even to get you through January, I'd be sort of, going a little bit, and getting all my sort of orders in now. Because it is May, by the time, you do your 4 months and your shipping, it's going to be October or something anyway by it gets in there. And luckily you're going into a 3PL, probably you're not going into Amazon, so you're not paying Jeff $2.40 a cubic metre foot. So, so in a way it's not going to kill you like before if you were putting all that into Amazon to put it in on October 1. And I find that a lot of the sales don't really happen until sort of, late November or something. So you have it sitting there all that time and you're just paying a massive amount of storage. So that's going to be a saving as well. Now, to just something I just remembered, and I have mentioned this a few times, I know some people might have heard this before, but I am actually resizing all my cartons because I had a lot of my cartons were only, say, 14 inches by 14 inches or something like that. So now I have gone back and said, no, I want them all to be as close to 25 inches by 25 inches because when you go into a 3PL, they charge you, it's around about $4, $5 to put a carton in and out. So when they check it in, put it on the shelf, they go to the shelf, they pick it and they put it back out. That's usually around about $4 or $5. So if you can halve, like say you've got, 10 products in a carton now and you can make it 15, you're going to reduce those cartons by half. So, if you're ending up with 1,000 cartons and you can get it back to 750, that's a lot of saving at $4 or $5 a carton. So it's just something that you've got to make sure it's under 25. They don't go 25 and a half because you'll never get it into Amazon. So make it probably go 24 by 24 with your supplier, just in case he gets a bit excited. But at least then, and not over 50 pounds. So you've got to be careful of your weight, but 50 pound is, a pretty heavy product to fit into a carton. So I think it's just something that can, and I've done it with a lot of my products and it's saving me because I had some of my larger products, I only had 4 in a carton. So now I've got 6. So it's helping me a lot. And I know it might sound like it's only $300 or $400, but every time if you do that shipment 4 times a year, it's $1,200 or $1,400. And, you've just got to think over the time and the more products you've got, can be, a lot of money at the end of the year. It's your dollars just throwing away. That's really the bottom line.
Yeah. Giving them to Jeff. Where do you get your cartons from?
No, the supplier makes the cartons for you.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Is that what you mean, Jackie? I think that's what you're meaning. So, yeah, when you're going to your supplier, you don't get involved in it. He will make cartons to fit your product specifically. So they work out how they're going to pack into a carton and how many they're going to put. And I think probably for ease of handling, they have just been doing them. None of ours have been 25 by 25 before, but now I've just said to them, as long as it's not over 50 pounds, can you make them bigger? Because it's just costing me too much money. So, your supplier will do that for you. It's not something that you would usually get involved in yourself, and because they know the right size, weight of cartons and everything like that.
Yeah, my cartons have been damaged. Yeah, I guess you need to talk to your supplier and make sure they're using the right type of cotton.
So Jackie's meaning it's damaged. They've got damage on the shipment. Is that what you're
on the
saying?
shipment, Jackie, or is it? Yeah, probably. Or is it in Amazon? Bill in Mary, hello Margaret and Megla. Great and timely advice as always. Scary stuff happening in India as mentioned. Our hearts go out to them. Yeah, thanks a lot, Bill. So, yeah, scary stuff happening there.
So Jackie, if I think you're saying is that your product's got to a 3PL and they're telling you, it's now damaged, you'll have to ask them to repackage them for you. They should be able to do cartons and repackage them. That would be the only thing you'll have to ask. I think you're in DSP, so if you just ask Simon, it's going to cost you though, obviously, because you'll have to pay them for the cartons, but they should be able to repackage them for you. So you'll probably have to also give them new labels. Because on it, it's got to have on the carton where the products have come from and that. So I think once it's clear, they've taped them up. Oh, well, if they've taped them up, that should be okay.
That should be okay then.
Yeah, if they've taped them up, that'll be all right. Yeah.
Right. Well, guys, let us know if you have any more questions. We'll start wrapping up the webinar, so type in your questions. Thanks for the session. Needed a reminder about a few things you touched on. Most welcome. One shipment on the water, another due for final inspection. Worried that the inspector will not be able to make it. Thanks for the virtual inspection advice. Might be a way around it. Yes, and if you are using RSJ, I was just talking to them a couple of days ago, and they have been doing virtual inspections. So you might want to just, give them a call and ask them how they do it. And or if you're using any other inspection company, they should be able to manage it as well. But yeah, virtual inspection is a good option.
So, yeah, doesn't make, yeah, it's pretty hard otherwise, I think, at the moment to get done. Well, that's good. At least you've got stock on the water and one ready to go. That's a bonus.
Good stuff, Marg, making me think. Yes, Amazon is really making us think.
Yeah, you've got to think outside the box. Think of anything you can that can save you money. And look, going back to people who are starting off with a new product and designing the box, and make sure that box is pretty tight. Like pack it, as tight. An extra inch on a product box can cost you a fortune. Between all the fees and the packaging fees and the road transport fees and the shipping fees, so it's pretty important when you're doing that to make sure that your box is pretty snug. Don't sort of think. I know it's nice to have a really nice gift box, and we've got a couple, and I could probably save quite a bit of money if I had from the start just pack them not as a gift box, but and the thing is, the customer doesn't see it till the end. But, it's something that I did, and I don't really want to go back and change it all now because I'd have to, it's a lot of changing. But, it does cost you quite a bit more if you've got an inch here and an inch there that is not needed.
Right. Okay, so let us know if you have any more questions, and we'll start wrapping up. Lastly, I just want to mention that our boot camp is coming up with Tim Jordan. Product Discovery Bootcamp. So in case anyone's interested, check out the website at theasianseller.com/bootcamp. We start on May 18th if you're joining from Asia and Australia, and May 17th if you're joining from the US. It's a 2-day bootcamp, so 18th and the 25th. And this is a live bootcamp with Tim Jordan where he talks about his process of selecting products. And he also shows a lot of good examples, and there's a lot of discussions, looking over his shoulder and just to see how he does product research. So we had really good response for the previous boot camps that we've done. This is the 4th one that we are hosting. We started doing these last year. So the last one had almost 100 attendees. And we also create Telegram groups for each of these boot camps. And there's a lot of engagement and activity happening in the Bootcamp Telegram group as well. And some of the groups are still active. So definitely check it out. If you are new to Amazon, then this is a great way to start looking for products. And even if you're experienced, just getting a refresher on product research and also learning directly from Tim can be very beneficial. Okay, let's see if we have it. I would personally love to see in another session how you structure your week, month in terms of tasks around the AMZ business, PPC weekly, product development monthly, etc., etc. I keep trying different things. Would love to learn from an expert. I think for Marg, it's probably daily.
Yeah, it is.
Daily tasks.
Yeah. Look, I try. I'll answer it quickly now, Claire.
Yeah.
Look, I get up every morning and before I walk early, but before that I turn this computer on, get my breakfast, sit down here in front of it, and I go from the start of the Amazon Seller Central right through. So I check any buyer messages, then I go and look at check my inventory to make sure there's nothing suppressed or inactive that shouldn't be, check my stock while I'm looking down there, then I check what orders I've got, check any returns in the return column. I sort of go right across, check shipping, check the storage now that I'm allowed, make sure that hasn't changed, check voice of the customer to see what complaints or whatever they're deciding to to throw in there. So I work through that every morning, just probably spend about 30 minutes going through, and I'll check my balances to make sure, have I got refunds, like what's been going on, have Amazon given me any refunds back, have Amazon given me any reimbursements, they charge me for this, they charge me for that, and I follow up, because what you'll find is in your returns, sometimes they'll say carrier damaged, but they won't reimburse you. So if they don't reimburse me within about 5 days, I raise a case and say, hang on, this is carrier damaged, I want a reimbursement. So I just look at all those things. So that's, I reckon, 30 minutes a day. But the less products you've got, it's probably, depends. Then I would, so that's my morning before I go out. Then I come back and I might, not every day, but I might once a week look and see, do I need to bring any more stock across from my 3PL into Amazon, check out that, work out, what I'm going to need for my next shipment. It just depends how much stock you've got and how quickly all that's happening. Unless you're doing product development, I don't worry too much about that on a daily or weekly basis. But what I tend to do at the end of each month is I go through and I'm a bit of a paper girl, but you could do it on a spreadsheet. And I keep every morning I keep a manual sheet of paper every day of what product sells and how many I sell and the total volume. So I can quickly go down and just run my finger up the foolscap sheet and go, yeah, I've sold X amount of this in a day. You can sort of see what's happening, because I've got 12 SKUs on the go. So I find it fits perfectly on the sheet, just for me at the moment. So I keep an eye on all those things. But then at the end of the month, I go through and I do like a spreadsheet on how many products have each sold. And I can go back since the day I started and look at each month, how many of each product sold. And you might find it's a pattern that there might be a certain day that particular product or month that is something that makes that sell more, and you can see the patterns, see what happens, and have a look back if you need to order more stock at Christmas. What did you sell last year? But last year was a bit messy because of COVID. I mean, I find that the sales were up and down, so it's a bit of a skewed thing. But then I also go into Amazon and go back into Helium 10 and have a look at what my main keywords were, how many searches there were in the previous month. Am I still ranked on page 1? Where's those main keywords and what are the search volumes, and whether there's trending up or down. So I spend probably a day at the end of each month going through, just checking all the stats, how many reviews I've got. Were they, have I lost, gone backwards? Have I got some 1 stars instead of some 5 stars? Because with the ratings, you can't really tell what's happening other than just looking, because you might find you get some ratings that you don't really know about till you really look hard. So I just keep a track of that every month, and I've got a sheet, and I can go back and see what I had last month and how many were, what percentage was 5-star, what percentage, and I can actually then see what's really happened with those ratings. It just gives you an idea of where you're tracking and where your products are going, and where the keywords are. And I mean, maybe you might find that you thought you were your best keyword and you're on page 1, and all of a sudden you've dropped back to page 3. So that way then you can either think, do I need to adjust my PPC? How can I improve that keyword again? Or is that keyword, not trending on Amazon at the moment? But I think it's a good idea to go and do all that more on a monthly basis. But I suppose the rest of the time, if you've got all your stock in order and everything, unless you've got issues, I don't find a lot to do. Look at your PPC and adjust that on a daily basis. But that can become a little bit like watching paint dry, changing it every day. So you've got to work out how you want to structure your PPC and how often you want to change it and everything like that. So I think that's probably, but I would say overall, you shouldn't be spending more than a couple of hours a day on Amazon unless you're a really big seller. I mean, if you've got under 10 or 15 SKUs, you shouldn't need more than a couple of hours a day. The rest of the time you can go and sit in the deserted island, eh? With all that money.
Except when it's Q4 and you've got limitations on your inventory, then you're just sitting there making shipping plans, right? We
might be all doing shipping plans daily soon. Like, we'll just have to watch this space with that and see. And because that's the thing. I mean, you really need to, if that happens, we're going to have to watch every day where that shipment is. Is it taking a week? Is it taking a month to get into Amazon? Do I need to start another shipping plan? But then you mightn't have room. So, I mean, it's going to be a real trick. So that could add another, half an hour to your day if you're really busy and a lot of issues. It's an unknown factor until we see how Amazon proceeds for the rest of the year. I think We'll just have to take it step by step.
Daniel says, hi from Brazil, midnight here. How sourcing agent is charged? Percentage of order or fixed fee to source? Yeah, so Daniel, most sourcing agents would charge a percentage of the order, and it ranges from 5 to 10% of the order. And of course, as your orders scale, you can negotiate that percentage. One of the advantages of working with a sourcing agent is that they manage the quality as well. So you sometimes don't need to do third-party inspections, and that is a cost that you can save overall on your order. So sometimes working with a sourcing agent can actually be cheaper than working directly with a factory, just because they manage the quality and you don't need to do inspections. And sometimes the sourcing agent will actually visit the factory multiple times, especially if they are based in the same city as the factory. They might go visit the factory, just before production starts, during production, and of course they will do a final pre-shipment inspection as well. And so that saves you a lot of money too if you're doing a small order, and if you get a pre-shipment, a midline inspection done by a third party, that's a couple of $100s, and a pre-shipment inspection, that's another couple of $100, because most third-party inspection companies charge per man day. And of course, if you get a sourcing agent that is very familiar with the product category, then that can be a huge bonus. They can help guide you on what types of products to source from India, what materials to use. Sometimes with suppliers, they rely on your expertise and your requirements, and they will just do as you say. But with sourcing agents, they are sort of representing you, and they can guide you and tell you that, okay, don't do this kind of wood in this product, or maybe if you're doing this kind of product, then you have to make sure that you keep in mind so and so things, and what are sort of the issues that you can face with certain products and certain materials, because they've been doing those products. They're experienced with those product categories, so they can give you a lot of advice on that as well. Generally speaking, which products from India are more competitive than China? Maybe textiles. Yeah, so there are lots of products, Danielle. Textiles, a lot of home decor items, wooden products, metal, leather, eco-friendly products, ceramic, glass, organic cotton. There are lots of products. I've also put in a URL of this ebook that you can download to get more information about sourcing from India and also the products that you can source. So go to indiasourcingtrip.com/ebook.
And also, Daniel, on that, the tariffs usually in China on most products, not everything, but a lot of the products are around 30%. Whereas out of India, they're about 2%. So before you start, you're about $3 in every 10 extra. So you can either have a better quality product or pay a little bit less. So I think the quality is better in India. So even if the product comes out at the same price as China, you're getting a much better product for your money. It's a much better made, and a nice product that you can have a brand story on, and help sell your product.
Can you please tell me how much as a percentage you should be spending on a product? When I go to PBC and look at our campaigns, Amazon suggestions are so expensive. What are your views?
Yeah, it depends on the category. I've obviously maybe looking at a product that's in a really high demand category where there's a lot of competition, because PPC can be like, if you're in, say, supplements or something like that, like can be $4.50 a click. A lot of products can be $1.50, $1.20. It just depends where you're looking for that. So I think you've got to be careful when you're selecting a product that it's not something that's over $2 a click, because you can just blow through more money unless you've got a really expensive product that you can have a good margin on. I would say that's really, but look, what percentage, it's really hard to pick a percentage, but I tend to go for a third. So if I pay, say $13 for a product, I want to sell that product for about $50 to give me enough to pay for my product, my shipping, all my Amazon fees. And then the biggest thing is the PPC. So you've got to really look at how much the clicks are. So if you're going into a higher cost click, you've really got to allow a lot more for PPC, but you've also got to set a budget for that. I know in the first few months, you probably blow through your budget very quickly and not make a lot of money, because you've got to get yourself moving and ranked. But once you've sort of been selling for a while, you want to be able to have a budget and try and stick to that, because otherwise you can just spend all of your profit on sort of PPC. And it's not just PPC. If you do Facebook ads, or you run other different sort of advertising mediums, it's all costing. Search, find, buy, they all cost, or giveaway products, whatever you want to do. You've got a budget for that, but you've just got to be careful. And I think if you're looking, I shy away from really low cost products. So if you buy something for $3 or $4 and try and sell it under $20, you've got to bear in mind that those Amazon costs nothing moves. So if you're selling something in a shoebox, whether you're selling it for $19 or $90, that FBA fee is still the same. So, you've got to just sort of bear in mind that you've still got to make that extra margin. So if you're selling something that's really cheap, I think you've got to go for volume. You've got to try and hopefully sell, in huge amount to make the same amount of money as a little bit more expensive product. But that's a bigger outlay. Obviously, you've got to tie a lot more money up to make money. But, if you want to make money, you need money to make it. So you've got to really outlay that money. It's a bit of a catch-22, I think. But to get your percentage, it's really hard because you don't know how much your PPC is going to be. You really, when you start off, you don't know how much your storage is going to be every month. It's a bit of a shock to your system. And I find your Amazon fees alone are usually about 30%. Of your your product sort of fee or cost that you're actually selling it for. So you've just sort of got to, I think, make sure you've got plenty in there to cover for all the unknowns that crop up. But we've tried over the shows to list everything, and I think there's a couple of Monday musings where I've gone back and listed everything that you need to allow for. So go back and look those up, and that'll make you look at all the costs.
Yeah. So, Joe, if you go into the Facebook group and look for topics, I think it's called topics. It should be right at the top of the page on groups in the group, or it should be in the right column somewhere. It's probably called topics or something else. They keep changing it, and I think they've changed it recently. But look for Monday musings there as one of the topics. And just click on that, and you can see all of the Monday musings that Margaret has done over the last few months. And there are a couple that talk about costs and expenses and pricing your products. So Mark, you mentioned 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and I guess that's more for the types of products that we buy from India. For example, the metal and wood products. So for example, if you're buying like a $2 product from China, that wouldn't apply. So it really depends on the
10 times or something, I think. Look, I think if you're to me, that third and a third is something that's around the $10 mark. In that sort of range. And I find that's a nice range where you can actually make a third and a third. If you're buying something, that's $2 from China, by the time you add all your, the fees we've been talking about, and try and sell it for, some people say to me, I'm going to sell it for $18, $19, and there's just no margin left. And I think a lot of people get caught. There's the profitability calculators on Amazon and Helium 10, and of course they can't tell you the PPC costs. They can't tell you all your other costs that you're paying, all your subscriptions, all those things, because they don't know what you're paying. So that might tell you that you've got 100% ROI or an 80%. People get excited. They say, I've got 100% ROI on my product. And then you say to them, but what about your PPC? And when you actually divide that back and all the other unrelated costs that you've got, you'll find that ROI might be down to 50%, or depending on what you're spending on PPC. So, and I think it's something you've got to constantly monitor. When you're new, for the first few months, you need to keep a track of how much you're spending on storage every month. Do yourself a spreadsheet. How much am I spending on storage with Amazon? How much am I spending with 3PL? How much is my road transport? Because those things are not included in those profitability calculators. So then you need to go back and say, if I sell 5,000 products this year, that profitability, I need another $5 to cover all these extra costs. So it's something that's a little bit of a work in progress. Day one, you're not going to get that right because you're not going to know all those costs. You can, even now when I bring in a new product, I can guess what it's going to cost me, because until I actually do that extra exercise, you can't exactly work it out because you don't know how many days that product's going to sit in there, how much storage it's going to be. So it's a bit of an unknown. But you just got to make sure you've got more profit than you need, because there'll be little things that just get away if you're not careful. So if you've only got a couple of dollars profit, you've got nothing left. when all these things happen, like they increase our fees or whatever they do.
Or raw material prices increase, or
Yeah.
freight costs increase. Cool. Okay, so looks like we don't have any more questions, Marg, and I think we can wrap up here. We've been going for over an hour. So, anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so. But I think, yeah, look, it's not all doom and gloom. It is still, Amazon, is a good business model to be in. I've been over this many times. It's much better than trying to open up a retail store and, fit it out and do all that and then find in 2 months' time it's not viable and you've got a 2-year lease. I mean, at least you can stop selling on Amazon tomorrow and close your account. So do you know what I mean? I think it's still, a good, but you've got to be careful in your choice of product. You've got to be careful with all your costs, and it's not easy. It takes a bit of work to get it going. But, once you get yourself up and running and, you've been doing it for quite a few years, it's not as time consuming as when you start. And if you're not looking for new products and you're not writing new listings and things, it's just a daily checking thing. It's not too bad.
Awesome. And, raw material price increases, freight increases. I think this is all part of business. Whatever business you're doing, there are ups and downs. There, prices increase and go down. So I think this is just, just normal business. We just need to learn how to deal with these situations, and yeah, it's just normal business. Thanks so much for the session. Appreciate your time and knowledge. Most welcome. Okay, so with that, let's wrap things up, Marg, and we will see everyone next week for another webinar Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. Right. On a Wednesday, hopefully.
On a Wednesday, yes.
We're doing well.
Yeah.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye everyone. Have a good week.